the 60s and the civil rights movement. That wasn't just the era of Martin Luther King, and it wasn't just the era of nonviolence. I mean, we had nonviolent groups, we had marginally violent groups, we had violent groups, we had revolutionaries, we had tokens, we had, I mean, you could like choose your place according to your own personality, propensities, experience. Within the Black community, we had so many different groups because you had like the Proctors who looked like they were white, you had Blacks who were like red, and so we called each other red, white, yellow, brown, or Black. Now I was dark, I came in the Black group, so that was the lowest of the low. So we not only had to deal with the racism in America from whites, but also from Blacks and from Asians and from everybody else, but particularly as the browns and the Blacks of the Black. It's like when you've been in this skin for 67 years, at some point you learn how to be where my white sisters and brothers so outraged or feel just this overwhelming compassion, sometimes a sense of shame. I handle it better than they do because I've been in this, and it allows me to actually comfort that at some point in my life, I need to make a stand for what I feel in my heart and what I know in my heart is true. But it means that some of them have lived all of their life denying that it existed, or having some sense of shame about it, or having even some fear, because if you know, I've witnessed the kind of mind that is discriminating in that way on the basis of race. I've witnessed that if you didn't agree with them, even if you were white, you were in trouble. And so sometimes just knowing what people can do to you will cause you not to speak up. Even within your heart of hearts, you wanted to speak up or you wanted to stand or to comfort, but for fear even of your own life or for being marginalized, you remain quiet. Understanding fear and what fear does, it makes me look at white people and understand that like me, they can have fear. There are many things I should have spoken up about that I did not speak up about. There are many things, and it doesn't have to be something as big as race. It can be not speaking up about something because you feel like the people in the group won't like you anymore. You know, it doesn't have to be life-threatening like where I have not spoken up when my heart was saying speak up, when I was trying to find my courage and I could not find it. When we start thinking about understanding the other and seeing the other as oneself, it helps us in a way to temper our experience with the commonality that we all share around our fears, just as human beings. There were times that I didn't speak up for people who were gay or lesbian. It wasn't like I was taught in church, and that was where I primarily got my information, because from the time I was a child, I was in church. And the way I was taught was the way I saw the world. But as I become an adult, start taking responsibility for gathering my own information, for pondering it, for deciding how that fits with my own great wish or how I wish to be with people, and certainly how I wish them to be with me, then I had to change, I had to go against my own self to change my views about some things, to change my views about some people. And that means that I have to also allow other people the freedom to have their own experience and to live their life. So that's the first part. I love it because the Buddha's always talking about the middle way. He's always talking about having a certain balance. And he's always talking, even when he talks about doing good and he speaks about the rope and how on the tightrope and you can't always lean to the right or lean to the left, but you lean to the left and the right until you find that perfect balance to do the appropriate thing at the appropriate time, for the appropriate reason, in the appropriate way. And then it takes many, 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 many years to cultivate and to develop this. And we've all made mistakes along the way. We spoke when we should have. Perhaps it would have been more beneficial to be silent. We didn't speak when perhaps it would have been more useful to speak up. All of these kinds of things. And so we come now and we're looking, I'm Buddhist, I started off Christian, conservative Christian, ultra-conservative Christian. So I understand that mentality. And it's not because I was hateful, but it was because I had this great desire and a love for who I call God above all others. And it said that I knew my own thoughts. My thoughts weren't always good. It said his ways are higher than mine, and I'm thinking, well, this doesn't seem right to me, but who am I to question God? So I, from a child up, embraced certain notions that were given to me. And even when I didn't always agree with them, I took the low road of humility to try to understand it because I didn't agree with it. But at some point in my life, I made a decision to be responsible for myself, thanks to the good news of the Dharma that said, be a lamp unto your own feet and a light unto your own path. The first thing we have to do is consider others as oneself. Tolerance is not the end, but tolerance is maybe a beginning point to be more tolerant of others, be more tolerant of who. The Buddha said, there's a lot of things that we cling to, but what we cling to the most is our own opinion, it's our own view. Even our views should not be clung to. It doesn't mean that we don't have them. It doesn't mean that we don't try to walk in a way or line up with our views if we're honestly thinking that they're right. But there's a line that we cross. Careful. The way the internet is crafted now, if you watch certain news stories, it knows what you want to see. It filters it out. It just keeps sending you more of that and more of that. So every time you look at your news feed, it's just more of the same thing all the time. And you end up with a myopic view because you only get one kind of news streaming to you all the time. So I decided this past week, and even in preparation for today's talk, that I listened to conservative talk radio all week. The first day, I was like a raving lunatic. I was so upset. I was like, oh, that's not true. That's a lie. I stepped back and I looked at myself. We look at ourselves, we will see other people in us. And I said, well, I'm acting the same way somebody's talking about fake news, and I'm like, no, it's true news, but you all are lying. And and I said, stop, Pannavati. Just stop. Don't speak. I'm talking to the radio. It says don't speak, just listen. And I just began to listen. The agitation began to lessen because I was hearing misinformation, and I understood that misinformation was perhaps delivered in a way that sounded real, authentic, and that you could line it up, and it must be true. And I said, well, if that was true, maybe I'd feel that same way if that was my basis for making my decision. This is not a popular stance at this time. I'm not saying that we don't have to do some things. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that the intention with which we go about it is what's most important. And we can't help others until we've gotten in a position ourselves that we are willing to temper our own thoughts, and we can quash and put down our own anxiety. Otherwise, we're feeding something and it's going to be really hard to resolve it. So I've been working on myself and where there's a difference of view, and I've been searching and looking up information. I've been accepting responsibility for things that I didn't do, things that I should have done. Certain law. How come I don't know that it's a law until it's already on the books? When there's a place you can go to see what laws are pending or up before Congress, why do we wait till something happens and tries to get it repealed? No, so in these ways, I think we're being challenged and asked to also take a personal responsibility. The conditions, not all somebody else's fault. That we have been asleep, maybe we've been negligent, and how can I cure that in me? That part of me that's been asleep, but it has been negligent. That part of me that feels like raging right now, and that's where I'm doing the primary work. Because the thing is that when we do this, then there's this space of clearing more centered in this way. We have some very good minds. We have some very good hearts. We're following a path of peace and a path of wisdom. Stop fighting the rhetoric, and we get still and we coalesce, and then we can find firm steps to take actions, starting with educating, starting with being willing to listen, being willing to say, I understand you feel that way. Let me hear how I see it on myself, instead of you're wrong and